think sometimes when you go and visit somewhere where it's like super busy with seabirds, it masks actually the reality of the drop in numbers.
Yes. Last year, I really just got to see it with my own eyes what it's like, and it's really sad.
It's almost really hard to know that something's coming and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes,
as well.
you feel really powerless. If the ocean is healthy, our seas are healthy, then these guys will do well. But if it's not, then these guys will not be doing well, and that's what we're currently seeing.
Sounds like the same when they're jumping off the screen.
Lorna, how long have you been with the RSPB?
Since I started volunteering with RSPB and then working, it's been 19 years that I've worked for the RSPB, which I can't quite believe that time has gone past.
That's a really goodly amount of time, and you're very much on a year-round basis, sort of, you know, here, watching, monitoring, able to see the shifts and the changes of seabirds across our cliffs, aren't you?
Yeah, it's, in terms of on the sites that I've been working at, yes.
Yeah. You know, we've got the seabird census that came in last year, and it says, you know, 70% of Scotland's seabird populations are in decline. Is that something that you go, yeah, because I've seen that over my, time here.
So in terms of kind of where my career started and where seabird declines had, like major seabird declines had started, so they'd already started by the time I got into working with RSPB, and one of my early contracts was up in Orkney Islands, and like here there's some really amazing kind of like beautiful, stunning cliff colonies. And one of them at Marwick Head, it blew me away because it's like this beautiful sweep of cliff, and there was all this, as you say, noise and sound and everything like that. But talking to a colleague who'd been there for years, said it was a shadow of its former self at that time. Wow. And in the course of the time that I worked in Orkney, that colony dropped and dropped and dropped, and although I've not been up in a long time, I think there's still like those major changes. Mm-hmm. One of the things when I moved down from Orkney to working in Aberdeenshire and going to Falsew, like seeing such, to me, in my eyes, a really super healthy colony, but then actually sitting down and looking at the numbers and seeing how much that had changed even in itself. Mm-hmm. It struck me at first as being like incredible, and it is an amazing place, but the changes within the seabirds there, from being kind of huge numbers of kittiwakes, we had a full colony count. It was maybe last year, and the previous one as well, had been, the net number of nests had been really quite high compared with previous full colony count, but that was still half the number of nests that used to be there at its peak. Yeah. And I think sometimes when you go and visit somewhere where it's like super busy with seabirds, it masks actually the reality of the drop in numbers.
Yes.
I've never been to Troup Head before, and to me this is amazing to see this lovely colony, this population of gannets. But you've been coming here for 6 years, and how have you seen that change?
Yeah, and whilst it looks thriving, it looks healthy, it looks amazing. The seabirds here have actually had quite a few struggles over the past few years that I've been here. What it looks like on the surface, when you break it down, really isn't the story at all.
Absolutely not, and there's just so many threats that are facing seabirds right now.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about gannets and how you've been doing.
The gannets, they've been up until recently they've been a positive seabird, so they've actually the numbers have been rising year by year. But then in 2022 they were really quite badly hit by avian flu.
Yeah.
And in the plots that we monitored, we experienced about 90% chick mortality. So we lost 90% of our chicks. So it'll be interesting to see in future what effect that will have with the breeding success of them.
They're not just facing the effects of offshore wind and fishing, they're still facing issues from bird flu, really. Those consequences.
Yep. And then last year was a particularly bad year for kittiwakes with HPAI. It was I absolutely love seabird monitoring. It's one of the best parts of my year. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But I didn't enjoy it. I actually didn't enjoy it because I was going through my kittiwake nest. I'm like, oh, dead chick, dead chick, dead chick. There was a lot more. There was a lot more dead chicks, which I'd not really seen a lot of before HPAI. So it was to actually see the effects of it, because before it seemed to hit foul shoe first, and then it came to Troup afterwards. So I didn't see a lot of it the year before, but last year I really just got to see it with my own eyes what it's like, and it's really sad. It's
almost really hard to know that something's coming and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes,
as well.
you feel really powerless, because all you can do is just count. You get the numbers. What can we do about it? And here it's kind of just that's still the question. There's not really the answer yet. So it's really difficult to comprehend, really.
So I guess for us working in policy, it's really important to kind of understand, the monitoring and how that influences our advocacy going forward. So day to day, what's it like kind of working here? What's it like monitoring and
It's absolutely brilliant. It's quite overwhelming at times when you have to concentrate on actually getting the numbers. But when it's just so amazing to be here, and you just want, I really enjoy it.
How are we going to get them back on their feet? And I guess that's quite a lot of what my job is trying to do, to convince governments, other stakeholders that we need to, build resilience and take the actions that we need to do that. So it's really invaluable to have, and great to be able to come out here and just, visit this and hear your tales, because that's what brings it to life. And I think for anybody who hasn't witnessed this, it would just be great to get them to come along, but not just to come along, but also to hear, from yourself as to, your experiences and what we've actually seen over, just 20 years. But when we look back, from the 1980s, we're looking at seabird numbers having halved. So that's incredible to reflect on, really.
Yeah.
What's your hopes, though?
I think, as you say, it's kind of being able to have that resilience of for the seabirds, that things like bird flu are, there's very little control that we have with something like that. But there are kind of proactive things that I say we, but as humans, as as a population of this country, or the people, the government can do to kind of actually give them that breathing space by making sure all the other parts of what they need is as healthy as it can be. And it means that if things like bird flu happen again, that essentially, though, and with the changing climate and storm things, but they're in, they go into the winter in good condition, and they're less likely to be impacted by winter storms. Yeah. And I think that's kind of my hope for the future, that because it would be such a shame if fewer people could actually come and enjoy this and see the spectacle of these incredible birds. It's a real privilege to actually get to come and call places like this my office.
and it's a real privilege to be able to come here and see this, to be able to take the time to come and witness this, because of course they're only here for a window, aren't they? There's only a few months of the year when they're here, and the rest of the time they're off at sea doing other stuff.
I think that's the thing that surprises visitors often, that when people kind of inquire about coming to stay Troup or Falsouth, they'll kind of like ask about, it's particularly puffins, because it's a real favourite of people.
Yes.
But they're there for such a short space of time, and their name Seabirds, in terms of as a group of birds, is hugely appropriate, because when them coming to land is just such a small part of their life, and it's incredible that some quite tiny birds can actually make the sea their home and survive.
Yes. And I guess why they're such great indicators of that ocean health, because if the ocean is healthy, our seas are healthy, then these guys will do well. But if it's not, then these guys will not be doing well, and that's what we're currently seeing. That indicator of seabird health is going away from the target and not towards it. So that's what we need to change. Yeah.